Hi everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Help me bring in Shabbat, okay? Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. You know, our singing to bring in Shabbat reminds me of the movie Black Orpheus, where there was a little boy and he had to go out and play his guitar to make the sun rise every day. That's what we're doing. We come and sing, and that's what brings Shabbat on. Also lighting the candles. So let's do it together, okay? All right, let's bring the light in. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. And now it's Shabbat, and we have guests to invite. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Lai 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 Lai, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu. You angels, you messengers of peace, come in peace and bless us in peace. And when you leave, leave in peace. That's what we're asking for. Okay. Let's dance with the bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmi'anu el Ham Yuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem al tiferet v'litchila, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat opened our arms wide and welcomed Shabbat to come in, Because it's not just outside, it has to come inside as well. We have to feel our calm and happy, joyous Shabbat selves. So we'll sing after we say these special words to Psalm 92 about the righteous. The righteous shall flourish like palm trees, grow tall like cedars in Lebanon, rooted in the house of Adonai, in the courtyards of our God, they bear fruit. Still fruitful in old age, fleshy and fresh they will ever be, proclaiming that Adonai is just, our rock in whom there is no wrong. Tzadikata machar yifrach ke'eres avanon yizgein shetulim b'vet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvon b'seva deshenim v'rahnanim iyu lehagid Ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo havlatabo. We are still in one of the greatest stories ever told, the story of the Exodus. But we begin the portion this week that we read for this week. We begin it in Egypt, but by the end of the portion, we have left. So you'll want to hear what happens, right? Well, there's 5 more plagues to go. There's lice and cattle disease and all kinds of miserable things. And each time one of these plagues come, it gets a little worse. And at one point, Pharaoh's circle of advisors say to him, "Don't you get it? Egypt is lost. You've got to let these people go." And so the Pharaoh, Moses and Aaron come to him and he says, "Well, who do you want to go?" And Moses and Aaron said, "Well, we want our old people and our children and all of our cattle and our women and our men. We want everybody to go." And Pharaoh says, "Oh, yeah, everybody, you want everybody to go. Yeah, well, God's going to be with you just like I'm going to let everybody go with you. No, only the men go." So Moses says, "If you don't let us go, we're going to bring a plague of hail." And now hail is a really interesting plague because it's not just plain hail, like those ice balls that fall from the sky, but it says fiery hail. And the rabbis say, how can there be such a thing as fiery hail? Fire and water and ice, they don't go together. But the rabbis, they always ask questions so they can answer the question themselves. And so the answer is fire and hail, fire and water, they don't go together, but to do the will of God, they worked together. I love that one. That's my favorite one. Anyway, the plagues get worse and worse. And finally, there's a plague of darkness. Now, hail, you can understand that's sort of a natural thing, but darkness for 3 days, no light. I mean, that's like on a bigger scale. It's like the scale of the planets moving, right? It's like holding a planet still and it doesn't move, doesn't go around the sun 3 times. And the interesting thing was, it said the darkness was thick. It was like a thick darkness. Like you could feel it. It was so dark. You couldn't see anything. But where the Israelites lived, it didn't happen. There was light there for them. But for the Egyptians and the main part of the country, there was darkness. So that's a real miracle. How it can happen in one place and not where the Israelites live. It's becoming to the point where the Pharaoh cannot deny that something way beyond his powers, way beyond his control is happening. But still he doesn't let the people go. So Moses and Aaron come and they have to tell him the worst plague, the 10th plague. It's so sad. In the 10th plague, it's the death of the firstborn in every house, every Egyptian household, in every barn that they had of all the animals. The firstborn of every family dies, and the firstborn of all the cattle. And God says to Moses and Aaron, go tell them this is what's going to happen. The death of the firstborn of everyone in Egypt. And they tell Pharaoh, and he doesn't believe them. And this is coming. This night is coming when all the firstborn are going to be killed. So then we get a kind of an interruption in the story. And God tells Moses and Aaron, now on this night that the angel of death is going to pass over the land and kill the firstborn of every family, this is what you must do. You must slaughter a goat or a sheep, dip some greens into the blood, and wipe it on the doorposts and on the top of your doors. And that way the angel of death will know that wherever those marks are, not to enter that house. And then you must get your friends together and get dressed with your shoes on your feet and have all your possessions ready to leave, because you're going to leave that night. And it sounds a lot like Passover. It says you're going to sit down, you're going to have a meal, you're going to eat this lamb or this goat that you slaughtered. You can't leave any of it. You got to eat it all, or take it with you, and wrap up your flat bread that doesn't. You're not going to have time. You got to do it tonight. There's no time to raise the dough. You got to cook it the way it is. Take your flat bread. And a friend of mine said, they were making like sandwiches to go on the road with the meat and the bread and a bitter herb. And you've got to pack that up in your stuff and be ready to get out, because God tells Moses and Aaron, because the Pharaoh is going to throw you out. He's going to send you out and say, get out of here. And that's what happens. The night comes and the angel of death comes and passes over the houses of the Israelites. And a cry goes up from Egypt, because it says there was not one house without one dead. And the Pharaoh gets up in the middle of the night and he says, get out of here and take all your animals and your husbands, your wives, your old people, your young people, get everybody out of our country. We've had enough. And so Moses leads the people, 600,000 men. That doesn't count the women and the children. And they leave Egypt. They leave Egypt. And they're out of Egypt, but they kind of don't know where they're going yet. But that's for next week. But, wow. You know, this thing they wanted so much, freedom to get out of Egypt. They got out, but they didn't have a plan for what was going to happen next. So they're waiting to see what God's going to tell them to do next. But you have to come back next week to find out. Okay, but at least we're out of Egypt now. Freedom now. We're out from under the onus of that terrible Pharaoh. Sing with me. Oh, say shalom. I forgot the tune. Just a minute. I'm getting two other melodies in my head, so I'll sing you a different melody. You'll learn a different melody. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav, huya say shalom aleinu. They all call Israel, v'yimeru amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav, huya say shalom aleinu. They all call Israel, v'yimeru amen. See, sometimes even the rabbi forgets the tune. It's lucky we have other tunes. We got lots of other tunes. Okay. Oh my, we definitely want to give our prayers and send our joyous energy, our hopeful energy to people in need of healing, whether body, mind, or spirit. And I'd like to mention two people today, Sheldon Strauss and B. Robin. I want to send them our healing energy for their spirit. Do you have anybody you want to mention? So say their names out loud. And if you can't remember their names, like I couldn't remember the tune, picture them in your head. And if you can't picture them, just know that your love is going to them anyway. Okay? Mi sheberach avotinu mekor habracha limotinu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotinu mekor habracha lavotinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. I'd like to say a special blessing for the caregivers who are so generous. Well, we say it all in the prayer, so I'll just say the prayer and you say an amen with me at the end, okay? For the caregivers, Know that your hands are the manifestations of love. Your pace is the embodiment of patience. Your voice speaks gentleness. Your being is selflessness. May you be kept from every harm and sickness. May you experience redemption through your kindness. May your hearts be soothed by the love that is tendered to you. May your souls be comforted in times of loss. And may you know that you are a blessing, bringing holiness into this world. Amen. We know that some people might be commemorating the yahrzeit of the anniversary of someone who has died, or there may be people who have had new deaths recently. So please say their names. And we'll continue with the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ul'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalei v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom b'murmav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Should we lift up our cups? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. L'chaim, l'chaim. And we always begin our meal with the blessing over bread. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. I'm wishing you a Shabbat of peace. You know, there was a rabbi that gave our new president a blessing, and Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish, the vice president. Her husband is Jewish, and her children call her Mamala. And the rabbi talked to Joe Biden and said, you know, you are a mensch. And so he called the pair of them, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, he called them Mamala and the Mensch. That's who we have for president now, Mamala and the Mensch, president and vice president. I thought it was funny. Let's close with another bim bam, and I'm wishing you a blessed Shabbat Shalom. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, my friends, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.